So time for business news now, and a group of French business people are protesting against new tax plans. Matthew's with us to explain more.
Yes, now this group is called the Pigeons, les Pigeons. Now that translates as pigeons, but also as the fall guys, because they think that they're basically taking the rap for a lot of the tax and spending increases that are required here in France. Now, they're a group of entrepreneurs who want to reverse proposals that they say are going to stifle the creation of new businesses in France. Now, we're lucky enough to have one of them here with us today, Jean-David Chamboredon. You are the head of ISEI. I knew I would say that wrong. Now, that's a French Internet Entrepreneurs Fund. Now, thanks very much for coming in to join us. Now, you've been a major critic of the new tax proposals that have been made by the government here. Now, everyone's making sacrifices to help France get back on track with its finances. What is it that you dislike about these proposals?
Actually, everybody knew that income tax and tax on capital gain would be somehow aligned in France. That was clearly in the program of Mr. Hollande. But we were all certain that a big difference will be made between, pure stock trading or stuff like that, and investing new cash into startups. And at the end of the preparation of the budget, we discovered that there were absolutely no difference made between these two kinds of investment that are by nature very different. Some are very risky, very liquid, are creating jobs. Some are very, very low risk and creating no jobs. So our protest somehow was to say, these are two kinds of investment that are very, very different, and the tax scheme can't be the same.
Why do you say that? Because there have been some business people out, haven't you, who've come out and said that they don't think that the tax rate really does deter true entrepreneurs.
There are some psychological level. If you say the marginal tax rate will be north of 60%, somehow people feel that they will be, everything will be preempted if they are lucky enough to be successful. Plus, if you look at individual investors, what we call business angels, if they take a lot of risk and at the end of the day, they just get 40% of the successful stories they have backed, it's not motivating at all. So they may stop investing.
Now, this 60% that you've talked about, and I've seen that a lot in the campaign that you're running, you've got a Facebook page, for example. Now, that doesn't always apply, does it?
That's correct. That's a progressive scheme, and the 60+% is the marginal tax rate that would be applied to large capital gain. And by definition, all people dream that they will be new Mark Zuckerberg and that they will make wonderful startups, and that maybe the capital gain would be big. So psychologically, the 60+% is unacceptable to them.
Do you think that there's a deeper problem here? Do you think that, as some people outside France say, that France is essentially anti-business?
There is a new generation, and it started clearly in the late 90s with a lot of with entrepreneurs, and I think the web played here a major role. And now we have a large community of entrepreneurs. Some are already successful, some are hoping to be successful, but the Pigeon story shows that there are plenty of people in France being entrepreneurs or willing to be entrepreneurs, and that's very, very good for the country, I think.
Jean-David Chamboredon, thank you very much for coming in, talking to us today. It's good to have him here. More than anything, we've learned as well that a pigeon is not just a bird, it also means fall guy. Thanks for coming in and talking to us today here on France 24.
Thank you.
Now, I'm going to stay in Europe, in fact, because speculation is still mounting that Spain is preparing to ask for a full bailout, isn't it, Matthew?
Yes, that's right. And those numbers on unemployment that we got yesterday, 24.6%, highest in the Eurozone, that's not helping matters. And the Prime Minister, Mariano Rajoy, he was meeting the 17 leaders of the country's regions. They're also struggling. 4 of them have asked for a bailout. Another 5 are expected to. Now, rumours keep continuing. We talk about them a lot, that Spain is going to ask for a bailout, maybe as soon as this weekend. The Prime Minister was asked about that yesterday. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
If there is an agency or person that says that this weekend we're going to ask for a bailout, then there are 2 possibilities. That this agency is right and has better information than me, which is quite possible, or that this is not the case, which is also possible. Anyway, what does it matter?
He doesn't sound that convinced, does he? How about the stock markets? How are they looking after that?
Yes, let's take a quick look. So in Asia, the Chinese and the South Korean markets are both closed today for a holiday, but the Nikkei and the Hang Seng, as you can see, it's a mixed picture, and it's really that news out of Spain is making investors unsure. Over in the US, those markets also closed in a mixed state on Tuesday, and the Dow Jones was down while the Nasdaq slightly up. There's also more data out overnight showing this slowdown in Asian economies. The Asian Development Bank said that growth will slow to 6.1% this year. That's down, as you can see there, from 7.2 last year. It will pick up just slightly next year.
Now, as we mentioned in the news tonight, of course, is the first presidential debate in the US. And the economy, well, it's going to be pretty much centre stage, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and it's jobs, jobs, jobs. The unemployment rate 8%, of course, in the US, and that's giving hope to Mitt Romney, his opponent, that that's going to help him in these debates. But whoever wins the election has some tough economic challenges ahead.
Unemployment, rising debt and a yawning budget deficit. The next president of the United States will face many of the same challenges as the current one. When Barack Obama took office in January 2009, the unemployment rate was about to break the 8% barrier. After a peak of 10%, the number of people out of work is now falling, but remains higher than it's been since the mid-80s. It's a similar tale when it comes to the budget deficit. In 2008, the American government spent $1.3 trillion more than it took in. President Obama had promised to reduce that figure, but it remained the same for the 2012 fiscal year, which ended on Monday. The White House has predicted that the deficit will fall to $901 billion in the coming 12 months. But those trillions do stack up, and after a hard-won deal in Congress last year, there was an agreement to raise the amount the US government can borrow, but there were strings attached. That presents the next president with his biggest problem, the so-called fiscal cliff. As part of the debt ceiling deal, a raft of draconian tax hikes and spending cuts are slated to come into effect in 2013. The hope was that lawmakers would be able to strike a new deal in the meantime to reduce the deficit in a less painful way. That's the problem that will land on the next president's desk. We'll have to resolve it without wiping out America's economic growth.
Well, now let's get some of the day's company news. And Deutsche Telekom says that its American subsidiary is in talks to buy a smaller operator, Metro PCS. Plans to sell T-Mobile USA to the telecoms giant AT&T was scuppered last year by regulators. They thought the tie-up could be bad for competition. But the Deutsche Telekom board is expected to meet today to vote on that deal.
Now, safety concerns at American Airlines. Loose seats have been discovered on 3 of the company's jets while airborne. The latest problem occurred on a flight last week between Colorado and Dallas. American Airlines says it's inspecting 8 of its Boeing 757s after those incidents.
And Air Canada plans to launch a low-cost carrier with flights to Europe and the Caribbean. The new unit will start flights in June. The company will fold its holiday company Air Canada Vacations into the new venture. Markets liked it. Shares were up almost 5% on that news.
Now, another demonstration planned in Paris this afternoon. We've had a few over the last week. What's this one?
Yes, that's right. This one is actually by workers at Sanofi. Now, that's one of France's biggest companies, in fact, second biggest by market capitalisation after the oil group Total. Now, they are unhappy because they believe that a huge number of jobs are going to go. Unions have said up to 2,500 jobs. The company says it's more like 900 jobs that will be going. But it's in particular the Toulouse Research Centre where jobs are going to be cut. Now, the government's been putting a lot of pressure on Sanofi not to cut too many jobs. Of course, they're reeling from all these cuts that we've seen at Peugeot Citroën and this unemployment rate, which has now gone through the 10% rate in France. So up to 1,000 people expected on the streets of Paris today.
OK, and the last story we're going to do is we're going to tell you, first of all, that Matthew and I are incredibly boring, dull people. And the reason for that is because, along with everybody else who works on this programme, working on what's called the matinale here in France, we spend our entire lives talking about sleeping patterns, which isn't surprising because we get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to do this, don't we?
That's right.
But a hotel in Chile has found a way to help tired workers.
I know, I was just drawn to this. Anything that has sleep
exactly.
about it.
I don't blame you.
I couldn't resist. And this is for workers not necessarily who get up as early as as we do, but who get a bit tired during the day. You know that feeling after lunch. You want to have
after lunch.
a little snooze, perhaps.
Don't last that long.
Well, this hotel in the Chilean capital Santiago thinks it's struck gold with a business idea that allows workers to go and take a little siesta. Let's hope it's just that, of up to say 45 minutes or an hour, because apparently beyond that you get too deep into sleep. Well, let's listen to one satisfied customer who tells us more.
Afterwards, you have a lot of energy, so it's really productive deep down, because you can keep working hard. I rest, and it isn't like one of those days that hits you from 9 in the morning until 6 at night, all in a row. Sometimes people eat in the office and never go out. It's great to get out and take a break.
Off to Chile for us, that's the answer. Thank you, Matthew. Matthew with the business. Now, there's pothole politicians coming up very shortly. Web News today, though, starts with a story from the Philippines.
Stop cyber